Do you have your eye on any of these players? Is it a star? Is it a role player? Is it somebody that I'm going to have to look up and see who he plays for?
I'm actually going to fade Trae Young. And it's funny when you ask me about superstars, I almost mentioned him because we remember that otherworldly performance he put on last year at Madison Square Garden where he's bowing in front of the crowd and doing his best Reggie Miller impression. But this is a really high number, and I expect Trae Young to show out for sure. But the Hornets, even though they don't play a lot of good defense, they've done a really good job this season of neutralizing Trae Young. In fact, they've met 4 times this season, and in those games, Young has averaged 20.8 points per game. So we're talking about an 11-point difference between his prop and what he's averaged in 4 meetings this season. Even if Trae Young steps up, based on what we've seen throughout the year, I think the Hornets are going to focus on Trae Young, focus all of their energy on slowing him down. So he'll get his, but I think 31.5 is too high. So I'm going to go under.
The only sabotage factor there is I think 3 of those games against Charlotte might have been on the road. I need to double check that. But Trae Young's been a lot better at
Mm-hmm.
home. But still, 31 is certainly a very high number. And there might be other ways in which the Hawks can take advantage of this leaky Charlotte defense. And for me, you look at the matchup here, and the matchup is absolutely incredible for opposing centers going against Charlotte because they allow the second most rebounds to opposing centers and the third most points to opposing centers. So going with that theme that has held true for the entire season, I'm going to go with Clint Capella, the center for the Hawks, over his points and rebounds prop of 25.5 for minus 120. This means he needs at least 26 points and rebounds. He has cleared this in each of the last 3 games and also is averaging right at this number against the Hawks with 13 rebounds, 13 points. It's a great matchup. Clint
Ooh,
Capella,
okay.
we all know, can really pull down those boards. So in a big game, I think he's going to be the presence down low, especially against a Charlotte team that is not good against opposing centers.
Well, the other prop I like in this game, when you talk about the 2 stars in Hornets, Hawks, who do you talk about? You talk about Trae Young, and you talk about LaMelo Ball. So I'm going to go over the points prop for LaMelo Ball just because it's set at what? 23.5 points, a little bit above his season average. But the Hawks, one of their weaknesses is they play terrible perimeter defense, and Charlotte loves shooting the 3-point shot, in particular, LaMelo Ball. Charlotte, as far as shooting from 3-point range, was 10th in the NBA, so they're not afraid to light it up. They're going to have more room against the Hawks there. So you talk about your stars rising above. I think this number is too low for a guy that can absolutely light it up from deep when he has the room to do so. So give me over LaMelo Ball's points prop at 23.5.
I'm a little worried in taking any kind of props from the Hornets because they have several guys that can
It's
certainly
true.
score. And that's usually why you see a lot of overs in their games. Miles Bridges can go off at any moment. So can Mellow Ball. So I think I'm going to stay away from any other props. And like I said, it's a tough market for me because this is not something we do on a daily basis. If you're interested in playing some other props in this game, some lines for Hornets Hawks, we've got Trae Young, 31.5. We just said that. Clint Capella. If you want to just play his rebounds, it's 12.5 with a lot of juice to the over. Mellow Ball, 6.5 rebounds. And his points prop 23.5. And Miles Bridges, like I said, he can certainly score with the best of them. Over or under 22.5 is his line for his points prop. Let's talk about the Spurs Pelicans game because we have a pretty high total on this one as well. Not nearly as high as the Hornets and the Hawks, but there are some props in this when we talk about the stars shining brighter. CJ McCollum, since coming over from Portland, has been an absolute star in New Orleans. His points prop, though, pretty high at 26.5. Would you have a leaning here?
Oh, God, I hate this game in every aspect. Can I just reiterate that? I don't want to watch this game. I don't know what side to bet. I would probably lean Spurs and grab the points here just because of Greg Popovich alone and his experience. But the only thing I'm looking at here is DeJounte Murray. He is the star of this Spurs team. And you look at the total in this game, 225.5. So it's high enough that we're going to see a lot of points. I'm going to go over his points prop. I think is probably what I'm going to do here. 23.5 points feels low to me for a guy who has been brilliant all season, who doesn't get the credit he deserves. And if San Antonio is going to win this game, or at least keep it within the number, he's going to have to deliver. So I'm not crazy about this game, nor the props in general. But if I had to, I'll put a sprinkle on Murray.
I will say he has not averaged a ton of points in the few games he has played against the Pelicans so far, but you're right. He is the star of that team, and he's hit this number in 3 of his last 5 games. I think for me, the matchup looks like a good one for Jonas Valanciunas. The Spurs have not been good against opposing centers as well, and he's hit over 10 points in 3 of his last 5. I need to double check his points prop for this one, because obviously you're playing the number. But I think for me, that might be the best way to look, because the Spurs, the matchup is certainly good for opposing centers. But any other props you like, Jenks, that I'm missing out on?
I think that's it. I've looked a little bit. I was tempted with McCollum because, as you've mentioned, he's just been so very good. But I hate to do a couple of overs here. I'm just going to stick with Murray. I'm really just going with my gut on San Antonio, which I know is not the best way to cap a game, but I just believe that with the preparation involved for this game, you give the extra time to Greg Popovich, he'll have his guys ready. I expect a good game out of the Spurs, and I'm just going to go with Murray and leave everything else alone.
Yeah, Valanciunas I might kind of tinker with later because, as I mentioned, the Spurs give up the 4th most points and rebounds to opposing centers. But for me, I'm going to keep it to just one prop and stick with my dude, Clint Capella in Atlanta, hopefully pulling down some rebounds and scoring some points. This is the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM on BetQL. Tonight, as the games are unfolding, you can listen to BetMGM Tonight with Quentin Mayo, Ryan Horvat, and Trista Crick. How cool is this? Not only do they get to react in real time, they can also instantly offer their advice for in-game wagering. It's all on BetQL and all available on the Odyssey app. Right now, there's another sport that is still going on despite me never talking about it, and it deserves some credit. And how about 60 seconds? Jenks, we're going to give you 1 minute to talk about the NHL.
1 minute minor.
The disrespect in Chelsea's voice. 1 minute, let's give you 60 seconds. Fine. You know what? Our losing streak is over. Let's get back on the right side. Tonight, we've got the awful Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, I'm bagging on Philly, hosting the New York Rangers. I love the blue shirts here. Both teams coming off the end of a back-to-back. No one has the advantage there. But you have to fade the Flyers, who lost 9-2 to my Caps last night. Philly is only averaging 2.6 goals per game. Their power play, worst in the NHL. They're also terrible defensively, giving up 3.5 goals per game. Quick aside, a guy from Philly once challenged me to a fight under a bridge when I bagged on the Flyers. Well, guess what, buddy? This is your fault. It's karma coming back to you. Rangers lost to the Canes last night. No shame in that. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and a huge advantage in net they have with Igor Shesterkin, who is a rock. Rangers in regulation, minus 130 at BetMGM. Let's make it 2 in a row with the stick and puck and cash.
A tiny bit light, which is
a little light there.
How I think your weight card would read if you were ever in a fight.
Chelsea,
I
did that?
I don't think you've ever been in a fight. Am I wrong?
Well, yes and no.
I'm not wrong.
I was in a fight, but it was very one-sided in that I'm generally a guy who gets along with everyone, and I am certainly not someone who throws hands on a regular basis.